After spending a very comfortable night, they had an early breakfast of coffee and a roll and were once more ready for the road. As the coach taking them back to the airport drove along, Hare was relieved to see that there were cabbages in the fields close to the road. Yesterday, these were fields of fog, dismal and gloom-laden. The sun still shone like a ghostly grey moon, but now he was able to see the Welcome to Heathrow Airport sign as they drove into the brightly lit tunnel. The departure lounge was a scene of chaos. People from every country, from Sikkim to Belize, sat about with a dejected air, or stood in long queues, or milled about, staring at the animated flight board, which kept changing its messages of delay, await further notice, and the magic words boarding now, which made Hare feel a little more cheerful. Nobody took much notice of the dejected Hare, with his large red overnight bag. He sat down next to two men in Arab dress. They smiled, and he perched on their low table in among the lemonade cans and empty coffee cups. Caller was getting restless. He wished to be taken to the cloakroom. There was nothing at all on the lighted board to indicate that they had an aeroplane ready to fly them out to the sun. Hare watched the grey sky anxiously, wondering if it would once more drop down a blanket of fog to steal away yet another day of his precious holiday. He was just emerging from the cloakroom when the announcer announced that their flight was boarding now from a speaker above the wash basin. "Jumping grasshoppers," shouted Crawler. "We'll miss our plane." And out he hopped, forgetting his need for secrecy and flinging open the door. Hare watched horrified as his wobbly legs collided with a lady's suitcase, and he soared through the air in four spread-eagled and down a short flight of stairs. Crawler moaned. All the wind knocked from his body. "Shall I call the nurse?" said the owner of the suitcase, very concerned. No, I shall look after him myself, dear lady," cried Hare, and he tenderly cradled the battered head of the poor toad. "Tweet, tweet," sang the birds, flying round inside Crawler's head. "I hear birds," he said. "Bless my silky ears, whatever made you panic like that?" "Sun," moaned Crawler. "Blue oceans and sunshine, vast spaces, not a soul in sight. Ah, oh, my head." "Ooh, my leg," he whispered faintly, so that only Hare, with his excellent ears, could hear him. "Life is full of pitfalls," he sighed. "Trust Crawler to find them," said Hare. Then, shaking him, he said more sternly, "You are to pull yourself together and climb back into the bag before the airport police get suspicious or they call an ambulance." Hare and the passengers marched down long corridors until they reached gate 55, where a man was waiting to search them. He was very nervous when his turn came. The officer peered good-naturedly down his ears. "Not often a hare comes my way," he said, smiling, and reached his hand into Hare's bulging bag. "Do you always travel with a hot water bottle, sir?" he asked Hare, as he prodded Crawler in the stomach with an official finger. "Oh, absolutely, always," said Hare. "Never without my hottie. Helps my arthritis," he huffed nervously, and hurried quickly after the others to board the bus, waiting to drive them to their jumbo jet. They were welcomed on board with the hostess in a pinafore dress and a steward in green uniform. The name of the jumbo was the Drakensberg, named after a range of smoky blue mountains. "Africa, here we come," sighed Hare. Here, and about time too," said Crawler. Hare sat down next to the emergency door. This meant he could probably be on his own. He was glad to have a porthole, and he was able to watch other aeroplanes taking off. He placed his bag at his feet, settled down, and fastened his seatbelt. The engines roared into life, and the giant plane thundered along until the tail vibrated, and up she rose into the afternoon sky, through fog and cloud, to greet the sun on the other side. There an early sunset cast a rosy hue over the horizon. The steward offered him a drink from the trolley in the aisle. He chose a Coke and asked for 2 straws. "Now don't chew yours," he whispered to Crawler, "because you are not having mine." "Thanks, Herr." Crawler actually sounded grateful. After another half hour, a silver trolley was wheeled up to him. There was a choice of menu. "Veal, turkey, or lamb," said the pretty hostess. "Just a minute," said Herr, and bent down to close his bag, for Crawler could be distinctly heard calling for veal. He put his foot firmly on the wretched toad's head and ordered turkey in a firm voice. "I thought you said veal," said the hostess, surprised. "Did I?" asked Herr vaguely. "Well, I meant turkey. It is my favourite." She opened up a small table in front of him and placed a neat tray before him. "Oh me, oh my, a feast!" he exclaimed. In a neat little plastic container was a prawn cocktail. Another with a tin foil lid had a helping of tender turkey, new potatoes in the middle of winter, sprouts and green peas, and a spoonful of stuffing. He was enjoying the last mouthful when he remembered Crawler. He unzipped him and handed down his pudding of pears and cream, plus a roll and cheese to keep him happy. After a cup of coffee, he was offered some earphones, for which a small charge was made. He thought it would be a good idea to plug them in, and so Crawler, alone in the dark, would at least be able to listen to some music. Herr was becoming quite concerned for Crawler. He was a pushy, impossible amphibian, but his simple trust in an untrustworthy world was quite touching at times. Herr wrapped himself in his green checked rug and decided to sleep. He dozed through the film, and the only thing he was aware of was the hum of the engines and the dreamlike thought that his next step on solid ground would be upon African soil. The silver jet soared onwards over the English Channel, over Normandy, Spain, and the Bay of Biscay, with its turbulent weather. Round the bulge of Africa she flew. Then she altered course to cross the Namib Desert, exactly 2 hours away from Johannesburg and Jan Smuts Airport. They crossed over Gaborone in Botswana and started to descend over the Magaliesberg. How new the grass looked, a soft green in the golden sunlight, like an English spring. Only here there were no small fields and hedges, but wide rolling hills, with homesteads dotted here and there at random. They flew in over the Hartbeespoort Dam, and people began to move about him to gather their belongings and gaze through the portholes. It was time for stage 2 of his adventure to begin. He shook Crawler awake and had to muffle his cries of joy with his paw. "Fasten your seat belts, please. We are coming in to land at Jan Smuts Airport," said the captain of the Drakensberg.